These first two verses are God's demand of Abraham. After these things, after all Abraham's life had kind of fallen in the right way, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, here I am. He said, take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. Now, the author here, since Moses writes these first 5 books, the author gives us a foreshadow and a hint. He kind of takes away some of the tension for us. And he says that God was testing Abraham. So as readers, we know that this is a test. In places all throughout Scripture, God does not want child sacrifice. We see that. This is not God saying that he is going to force Abraham to sacrifice his child. He's asking Abraham, go and offer up Isaac to me. Give him to me. Offer him as a sacrifice there. But we know from the writer that this is a test. It's a test. So we see this foreshadowing for us. But Abraham, remember this, doesn't know that. God didn't say, hey, Abraham, I'm going to test you. Take your son. He says, no, Abraham, take your son. Go and sacrifice him. And here's the crazy thing, is that Abraham, his name means father of many. And God said that the promise that I'm giving you is that you're going to have kids that are hard to count. It means they're going to be innumerable. More than the stars, more than the sand on the shores. But of course, all of this has to filter through the one kid. You have to have Isaac for this promise. But now God is asking for Isaac back. So he says, father of many, Abraham says, here I am. Take your son, your only son, Isaac. Go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering. This is the demand that God gives Isaac. He is telling him to do this. Abraham is not given a chance to debate. He says, go do it. Look at verse 3. So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and his son Isaac. And he cut the wood for the burnt offering, and rose and went to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. So we have this command by God, and you can feel Abraham's emotions. I mean, his heart was in God. And any of us would feel that. You have to give up your only child. You have to sacrifice them to God. But notice, what does Abraham do? He doesn't try to finagle his way out of it, just to reason his way around what God said. God said this. And sometimes we get in this habit of saying, well, is that really what the Greek says? Maybe if we work our way around this verb, we can kind of change how we want to fit it. And maybe it doesn't actually mean what it says it means. But Abraham doesn't use that version of interpretation. He heard God say it. So basically, he rose early in the morning. He didn't get any time for him to walk. He just gets up and he goes. In fact, we don't even see him have a conference with Sarah. He doesn't even tell Isaac what's happening. He rises, gets Isaac, gets 2 servants, saddles up, goes. And think about this. For 3 days, the man is traveling. And every day, he's looking at his son when they're camping out, and he looks at the stars and thinks about the promise God made. He looks at his only son, and he knows he's going to have to give him up. And he looks at him and says, this is the 3rd to last night. The 2nd to last night. It's the last night. I'm going to soak that up. The last time he gets to laugh with his son, the last time he gets to share stories, reminisce. And every day he had a chance to turn around and go back. Every day he has a chance to say, no. But in fact, he keeps going. keeps pushing on. And he sees the place from afar. And verse 5 says this, Then Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood and the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they were both of them together. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, My father. He said, Here I am, my son. He said, Behold, the fire and the wood. But where is the lamb for burnt offering? Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they went both of them together. They get to the foot of the mountain. He unpacks all the stuff. He gets the wood. He puts it on Isaac's back. He takes the knife and the fire. They start going up the mountain. And Isaac looks around and says, There's something missing. He knows what a sacrifice to God means. He knows that there's some animal that needs to be slaughtered. So he interrupts their walk and says, Father, where is it? This is one of the last opportunities that Abraham's going to have to say, Oh, we forgot. That's my fault. Let's go back. That's not what Abraham says. He says that God will provide for himself. Now think about this. What was God's provision for Abraham and Sarah? It was Isaac. God has provided the lamb that he is now required. But there's a piece of this that also is looking forward and saying, God will take care of us. God will take care of us. In fact, if you think about this, and you look at Hebrews and chapter 11, think about this for a second. Just so you can listen. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. And he who had received the promises was in the act of offering up his only son, of whom it was said, Through Isaac shall your offspring be named. He considered that God was able even to raise him from the dead. From writs, figuratively speaking, he did receive it. The Hebrews, the author tells us that in this section, Abraham was even thinking, even if I take the final blow and kill my son, God can bring him back. God gave him to me before he could give him back to me. Think about the weight of that thought. The power that Abraham is saying God has. I mean, how many times have we forgotten in our own lives that God is powerful? I mean, time and time again, he has shown me that he is more than enough to take care of my problems, my needs, my concerns, and yet, when the waves come, I get nervous. But here we have an example. Fathers, grandfathers, young men who will be married someday. Listen to this. The person who had authority and power in his region that everyone respected said, I will trust one above me. Even if it means I give up my son, I can get it back. God will provide for me. Verse 9 says, When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. They get to this fire. Nothing has changed in God's command. Nothing's different. So Abraham dutifully begins to set up the altar, lays the wood, and begins to bind his son. Different commentators, when I was going through this, debated whether or not Abraham would have tied those bindings tight or loose. Loose for Isaac's comfort, or tight so that it would only take one accurate strike to end it. Think about the position that Abraham is in. He is quite literally having to choose between the gift God has given him, his son, or God. What will he choose? Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He said, Here I am. He said, Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. He's in the act of raising the knife. And the angel of the Lord calls out and halts him. You guys remember in the Gospel of Luke when Christ is talking to the crowds of people, and he tells them what it's going to take to follow him. Most of the headings in your Bibles will say the cost of discipleship. What does it take to follow Jesus? And Jesus tells them, he says, you must hate your father and mother, your brother and your sister, your children, essentially everything, even your own life. And you're to pick up your cross daily and follow me. Man, that was discouraging for a lot of people. He said, you have to choose me over everything else. Fathers, grandfathers, young men, if there is anything, and I genuinely mean anything, if there is anything that you would put over God, anything, we are missing the call of Christ. If there's anything that would take God's place, we are missing the call of Jesus. Abraham, in this example, he gets it. He knows that God is more important, and God is powerful enough to fix anything or change anything. He knows that God is more important even than the promised son, even than his only son. But remember, we were told earlier this is a test from God. God is looking for where Abraham's heart is. And in many ways, God is also using this to show Abraham the true test of faith and to show Isaac a good example of what this is. He steadies Abraham's hand. He tells him that you fear God. I know that you fear God. You haven't even withheld your son from me. Now look at this. Here's a key thing. Another preacher had mentioned this when I was going through. It was a great way of phrasing this. When God asks, He asks for full faith. He asks for you to commit fully. He asks for you to give everything up. When He does that, He's not going to abandon you. He will not leave you empty-handed. He will not throw you out and cast you and let you be on your own. In fact, in verse 13, Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, the Lord will provide. As it is said to this day, on the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. There was a lamb to take his son's place. Think about this. As Abraham is going up the mountain, God already has this ram wandering on the side. God is testing him. He has provision waiting. Fathers, we are in a climate today in our culture, and it is deteriorating fast, where you may be tested. This is the first instance that we see this kind of test with God, but it is not the only one. Far from it. And He will ask of you the same question. What is most important to you? What will you pick? Will you pick up your cross and follow Christ? Will you offer anything up to God? That's the test. And that's the question. I promise this. That the example that Abraham set, Isaac never forgot. Never. Never. He never forgot this. This is the example that Christian men can show and can set for others. This requires some reflection. Look at this in verse 15. The angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, by myself. So God is swearing by himself. There's no other power greater than God. He is swearing by himself. By myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you, and I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven and as the sand that is on the seashore. And your offspring shall possess the gate of his enemy, and in your offspring shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. God reiterates his promise. Not only did God provide in the moment, but he says, I am going to provide this promise way longer than you could ever imagine. And when you go through the genealogy of Christ himself, you get back to these names. We see Isaac, we see Abraham, we see these guys. And God follows through. It's so amazing, the example that we see here. It's important for us. This applies for everyone, but I'm targeting fathers because we see Abraham as this example. Man, it's important for us that we recognize that we have a king. You are not your own entity. As strong and as puffed up as we can be, as powerful as we can get, and you are like an ant to God. If you're older, you probably already understand that. And if you're younger, you're starting to learn it. And so when the king says, give me this back, when your king asks you for anything back, we should follow Abraham's lead. Yes, Lord. I want you to think about this for a second. There's an example I love in the New Testament. These 10 lepers who are stricken by a terrible disease come to Christ. They've heard about him before. They ask to be healed. Christ says, go on your way. Go show yourself to the priest and you'll be healed. They walk on their way. They recognize that they're healed, and they all are rejoicing. And one comes back. He gives praise to Christ. He says, thank you for this. And Christ asks him, he says, were there not 10 who were healed? Where are the other 9? They were so consumed with the gift, they forgot the giver. Husbands, fathers, men, let's not fall into that trap. The giver is always more important than the gift. The gift is wonderful. We like the gift. We should be happy about the gift. But if the king who gave it to you asks for it back, give it open-handedly. When we clutch onto things, when we try to wrestle things for ourselves and try to keep it, we miss out on everything else that he has in store. Men, we're not rulers really over anything, but we are soldiers of the one who has made us. And as you live this life, dedicate every piece of it to him. Hold nothing back. You are the example. You're the ones that your kids are looking to, your grandkids are looking to, kids in the church are looking to. We can be like Abraham. Let's choose them. Let's pray. Father, I thank you that you have just overwhelmingly blessed us. Lord, I thank you for the example of Christ. That you didn't hold him back. The only time you asked for a sacrifice of one's child was when Christ was sacrificed, when a piece of you was offered. We thank you that you substituted him for us. Lord, please help the fathers here, the ones who will be fathers and the grandparents who have already gone through this multiple times. Help us search our souls, dig deep into who we are, and help us, Father, that when we're tested, we look to you and we say, yes, Lord. Father, please give us the strength we need to follow you, to pick up the cross. I ask that you would bless every father here, every grandfather here, every future father here. That they would be masculine, shining examples who follow the example of Abraham and ultimately who follow after you. Lord, thank you for Christ and all that he has done, all that he accomplishes on our behalf. It's in his name we pray. Amen.
Would you please stand with us?
If during the message at some point you felt stirred, that maybe this is a piece that you want to have incorporated in your life, I'll be singing this next song, but then I'll be off the stage. Please come over and talk to me about it. If you even want to commit to more than this, if you haven't committed yet to faith, we can do that. I can get wet today. That's okay. So please, during this next song, consider that. I'll be up front waiting for you if that's something that you want to do.
Sun set, sacred. be reading from 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18. I will be the father to you, and you will be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. On this day, which we celebrate God, fatherhood, I'm reminded of the awesome responsibility which is ours as fathers. Let me be the first to admit that I have fallen short this morning. I see us fathers as mere shadows, standing in the representation of God in the lives of our children. Whether we are biological father or we have embraced children whom God has placed in our lives, the responsibility is the same. As one group begin believers, we take our young by the hand and begin to escort them through life. The life by which they see us emanates mostly from our own knowledge and experience. With those obvious limitations, we are only able to light their path for 2 or 3 paces ahead. At some point, their conversations begin to change. To look at the path, I notice that my dim spotlight has begun to fade. The light of dawn is taking over, and they are being awakened to a new reality. As I escort them to the foot of the cross, where the sinless perfect one died in their place, taking on himself the shame and stigma of the cross, I raise their hands high above my head, and 2 steps backwards. I must decrease, but he may increase. I travel along with them a ways, encouraging them in their newfound walk as they embrace the Lord Jesus Christ for themselves, which we call discipleship. At this point, they are beginning to walk fully in the radiant outshining of God's glory, emanating from his countenance. I take a few more steps back and fade into the background, joining that great cloud of witnesses in the celebration and praise, for those who were lost in our country have come home to their true Father, who welcomes them with arms outstretched and hands open wide. As we partake of this communion meal, let us, with arms outstretched and hands open wide, embrace all of the fathers of his children right here in his neighborhood where God has placed one so Christian church, and let us escort them to the glorious presence of his majesty, King of kings and Lord of lords. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for being a kind and loving and forgiving God. We ask that you help us take our sins and to turn away from them and do your will. In Christ's name we pray. keeping with the same order we've been doing for the last month, the offering plate is back by the back door. As you leave, you can place your offering there. Announcements. Tuesdays, we do have men's group at 7 o'clock here at the church. There's a third Sunday morning service at 11:30 here until noon. And it's open to everyone, but it's time for the children and their families. OCT parking lot will be available to watch and watch the local fireworks. The lot will be close to the vehicle traffic. Approximately 9:30 is when they start the fireworks. For the individuals to use restrooms, and the bounce house and ice cream will not be available this year. And we ask that you practice social distance. Also, there's been an extension put on the contract for the land out here, so they can do an environmental study. Anything else? Okay, we'll go ahead and have our closing prayer. And let's pray for our offering also. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all that you give to us, all that you have done for us. We ask that you take what we have to give back to you, whether it be our time, or resources, or talents. We ask that you take this into further your kingdom. And as we leave this building, we ask that you have us do not only tell your story, but to live your story and show the love that Jesus showed us. It's Christ in me, I ask.
Would you please stand with us?
I'll see you at noon.
They're doing an environmental study on it. They had filed for an extension on the closing date. So it's still moving along. It looks like it's. Yeah, I don't think they're doing it. I don't know, I could be wrong.
Okay. Well, this meeting, Friday.
I know it's taking a little bit.
Lunch is there early need.
I mean, they know everything going into it. And disclosed up front, so they know what they're getting.
We're going monthly, and then Andy's gonna meet us there with the meeting. And then I'll file for the drive down. I'm not looking forward to the drive at all. I'm coming home on the 3rd.
Oh, you're in there on the Are you still trying to figure all that out?
Yeah, one of the amplifiers died during the middle of service, and so I'm trying to.
Now you gotta figure out how to fix it.
Right now,
Okay. Is there's still on the third service, isn't there?
Yes.
Okay. So, do we want to take this line in there and put it back in the safe until third service?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Do you mind doing that?
No, I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, just right, like right here.
Good job troubleshooting, man. You made it work.
Made it work, but it didn't sound good. Oh, it's main out.
What about you, Alicia? How are you? Thank you, Jill. You're a blessing.
Did the whole thing just crash or?
The main amplifier died.
Oh.
That's where my name came from. That's what I was told. That's what my name came from. That's all. Can I make you guys go that way? Go that way, 'cause I just All right, Tim, it's in the safe.
Thank you.
Yep, has Holly been coming to count, do you know?
Yes.
Okay, because I haven't heard from her all for like the last 2 weeks, so I didn't know if she had or not, since I haven't been able to. All right, have a good week, have fun.
You too.
Bye. See ya.
Thanks, so you guys. Hold on.
We'll see you for Wednesday.
Whatever, Nick.
Okay, you got Tom sit down?
I will.
Okay.
Well, that went pretty good aside from sound stuff.
Yes. That was nice and simple and everything's Good job, Abby.
You too.
Test 1 2 1 2 3 4. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Test 1 2 1 2 3 4. Hello. Is that the monitor or the main? Hello. That is the main. Hello, test 1 2. Light is the main. Okay. Two, 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 two.
She's here.
Test 1 2. Testing 1 2 3 4. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello.
Wow, that was loud, sorry.
Test, test, test.
Which mic do you have?
Test, test, test. Ooh, that's really tinny. Do you want me to switch?
No, that's all right. I'll turn the high down.
Okay, test 1 2 3 4. Hello.
Okay. Are you going to be here that you're going to run it, or do I need to find?
No, I will be here.
Okay. So how I do?
I'm gonna
Try. So how I do the PowerPoint is like
you want me to run slides?
If you would like.
Actually, it goes over here and it just starts and does its thing.
You can get shoes for her.
So here's the,
Was the walk okay?
But come on. I took a shower before I left, so then I'm just gonna undid the shower. Walked all the way here? Yeah, you're crazy. With the stroller uphill.
It's normally like 15 minutes if you're by
0.9.
yourself.
0.9. I'm really gonna wipe my face off. Can you come with me? Are we gonna go back to
So you got two things.
Oh, see you, John.
John, thank you for everything you do. We're thankful.
See you, buddy.
Hello, beautiful princess.
Say hi, Miss Brenda. Say hi.
What kind of shoes do we have on today? Mine are black. Which color are your shoes today?
Yeah.
You got sparkle shoes? I love them. Happiness. It was an excellent service. I bet you were. I mean, singing and everything.
I always take a nap after Sunday anyway.
Yeah.